Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Happy Sunday to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, this winter for many people that fail to see what is in front of them is going to be a cold and hungry winter. All of the signs are out there that you need to prepare for this winter more than others. And the things that are happening today are going to continue to happen because of the policies that have been put forth in order, well, you can fill in that blank, right? Because the clowns that are in charge, they have many different agendas, and unfortunately, people are going to pay the price. And the thing is this, is many people, for example, if someone's looking through articles and they see this headline, they do not know what the correlation is between ammonia and food. Well, how does ammonia have anything to do with the food that I eat? Not understanding that ammonia is used for fertilizer. I don't concentrate on the why, because the reason these things are happening are out of our control. So I try to concentrate on what is happening in the now and how can it affect the future. And the production of fertilizer, as we've seen, is going to increase the price of food. All right, because the production of fertilizer the cost of it has gone up so much because of the cost of natural gas, has already increased the price of food, amongst other things. But now with even more plants going offline, it's going to increase even more. And many people just won't be able to afford to eat and to heat. So they're going to have to pick one or the other. Here they continue to say that as of Friday, 70% of capacity is offline across the continent of Europe, according to Fertilizers Europe, representing top regional producers. And he says, quote, "We confirm we are reducing and stopping production of some fertilizer plants in the different EU sites, and this is for economic reasons." Why? Because the prices are just too much. I remember talking about input cost an awful lot in the last several months. And input cost, for those of you that don't know, is what it costs for you to run your business. So if you're making a gadget, if you're producing this or that, what does it cost for you to produce that? And are you going to be able to sell it at that price? Well, even the factories now, even the plants can't afford to actually produce what they're going to sell. It's called demand destruction as well. Even though there's a demand for an item or a thing, people won't buy it because it's just too expensive, and a lot of people are going to starve. However, it does give me hope that a small population of the people are actually looking ahead toward the future instead of just looking at the here and the now. This is beyond imagination. Polish homeowners line up for days to buy coal ahead of winter. And right now in Poland, I do believe that it's still warm weather in Poland, but now they're lining up days, spending days in their vehicles to buy coal for the coming winter. With Poland still basking in the late summer heat, hundreds of cars and trucks have already lined up at the coal mine, as households are fearful of winter shortages, wait for days and nights to stock up on heating fuel ahead of the coming cold winter, in queues reminiscent of communist times. And this is a quote from a gentleman that is in line. He says, "This is beyond imagination. People are sleeping in their cars. I remember the communist times, but it didn't cross my mind that we could return to something even worse." So he considers this even worse than the communist times that he actually lived through. UK passed a debt and death sentence to millions by increasing energy price cap by 80%. Now they had their energy prices capped, and now they increased that cap by 80%, meaning that going into winter, the consumers are going to be paying almost twice as much as what they were already, which was already very elevated. The 80% rise in the UK's cap for consumer electricity and natural gas bills this fall will drive millions of households into energy poverty this winter as the worsening cost of living crisis stokes fear of recession. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you may want to think, I'll tell you what I think, all right? That way I don't get fact checked. We are in a recession. That's my opinion. just take a look around. Just read some of these articles. You know, we live in a very small world where you know what's going on in some country across the pond a day, if not the same day that it happens. And these are indicators for us here in the U.S. and in other countries of what may come. And why do I say that these are indicators for us? Because like I said, we live in a very small world. And the ideology that most governments around the world have is pretty much the same. If you understand what I mean, you will own nothing and be happy. But I digress. And listen to this. They know this. All right, they know this already before they pass these policies, these price increases, etc. An increase of this much cannot be budgeted by households with no wiggle room. Low-income households will simply not turn on their heating. Incredible. This will be a winter of cold and hunger. We will see that. So you can blame the climate, ladies and gentlemen, for all of these price increases because the European Central Bank says that red hot inflation is because of climate change. There you go. Go home, be hungry, be cold. Just blame it on the climate. You're definitely going to be blaming it on the climate when you're freezing this winter because you can't afford to live. And I guarantee you, these clowns are going to be nice and warm and very well fed. Do you feel like you've been duped? Do you feel like you've been misled? Well, I guarantee you this, if you don't feel that way yet, your pocketbook and your empty bellies will pretty much allow you to feel that way here pretty soon. Because if you're not preparing for what's coming, because it's coming, right? It's coming. All of these corporations, all of these governments, they're in line with each other. There are very few local governments, state governments, maybe even a few small countries that are like, we're not doing this stuff. You guys are crazy. Do what you want to do, but we're not doing it. Because we know what's coming down the line. And they're going to be sitting in the background just watching. Well, why don't you make yourself that island? Why don't you make your family that island that can sit back and say, yeah, we're not doing this. Okay, we're going to go ahead and prepare now. And during this winter, when people get hangry, right? Hungry and angry at the same time, it'll be after these people that they come after. When things get so expensive that you're like, wow, you know, you're going to go to the store from one day to another and say, wow, that's incredible. You already have your stuff stocked up. And if you do need that extra amount of money to pay for those energy bills that are just crazy, then you'll have that money because you're already prepped with food and the other stuff that you need. That is a way to prepare for this winter, is to get what you need now at today's prices. That way when these fuel prices go up and you have no choice but to pay them, you can pay them because you can fall back on your preps. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what, the policies that are passed, I can talk for the United States here. The policies that are passed here, they make absolutely no sense. And I think that's exactly what they're intended to do, is make no sense. Why? Because in the end, it will create a people that is dependent on government, even though government is the entity that created that dependence through their policies and laws and executive orders, etc. I put up a video, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, about China, about how dependent we are on China and about how much stuff China makes that the world depends on and how much China exports throughout the world. And here, this article pops up today. U.S. heavily dependent on China for rare earth elements. And I mean, what else are we dependent on? And there's something here that I really want you to concentrate on. For those of you that are climate activists, and if you want to be, by all means, go ahead. Live and let live. But remember that. If you're an activist of any kind, remember to live and let live. This administration's top-down push toward renewable requires an enormous growth in the mining and rare earth elements, which in a way it's an oxymoron. Because they're looking towards renewables to save the planet. But at the same time, they're raping the planet of things that it has in order to create those renewables. And then how are you going to replace those things that are renewable energy things once they go bad? You're going to have to go back to the earth and claim that which you need to build those things again. Currently, the United States relies on the mining and processing powers of China, which has far worse environmental regulations to achieve many of its needs. So what are we really doing? If we're trying to save the planet, can we not come to the conclusion that everyone in the world, lives under the same dome, under the same ecosystem, and that what happens in another country that affects the planet really affects everyone? But we sit here in our ivory tower saying, yeah, look at how green we are. Look at how great we're doing and not putting out emissions, while we're importing things from other countries that are putting out emissions at a record pace. In China, they build a whole bunch of coal power plants every single year. We're destroying it. So really what we're doing is we're using our fake money in order to buy carbon from another country in the form of goods that they've already produced. We are heavily dependent on foreign adversarial nations, and that's another thing that we should think about. We're dependent on nations that do not like us. What happens when they cut us off? If today the communist country of China stopped selling us their critical rare earth minerals, we would be in deep trouble, from our national defense to our manufacturing across the globe. So what are we doing? What are we doing here in the United States and other countries that depend on China, that consider them their adversaries? Because anyone that lives here in the United States, I would say, considers China their adversary. And I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about this government. I don't know any Chinese person that's ever done anything wrong to me. Okay, so I can't talk about the people in China. The government, from what I've heard and what I've seen in articles and newsreels and things like that, maybe not so good. And I would dare to say that they're not good at all about how they treat their people, just from the social standpoint, from their social credit system and their monetary system and all that kind of stuff. But what are we doing here if we disagree with the way that China runs their country and the way that they behave? What are we doing depending on them to provide us here with the rare earth minerals and metals that we need just in order to operate on a daily basis? This will come to a halt one day. One day China will get ticked off at whatever. You can fill in the blanks and say, we're not sending you any more of this. It will happen one day, and we are going to be in a bad situation. Why? Because you can't just turn manufacturing over like this. You can't just snap your fingers and here we go, we have all our manufacturing back. It took years for it to go away. It's going to take even longer for it to come back. So prepare, ladies and gentlemen. We can only prepare for so long, but right now we need to prepare for this winter. Prepare for one crisis at a time. And winter will be a winter of crisis for many people around the world. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.